The calf is predominantly made up of two different muscles, the soleus, which lies deep to the gastrocnemius. As you can see here, both muscles connect to the Achilles tendon that pulls on the back of the heel. The gastrocnemius also has two different heads that pass the knee joint to the back of the femur. The gastrocnemius and soleus both work to create plantar flexion, whereas the gastrocnemius also assists with knee flexion. Start sitting on the floor using a foam roller. Begin by placing your calves on the foam roller. Using the weight of your legs, flex and point the foot to create a better release. As you work up the calf, roll the knee outward and inward to get more of the lateral and medial gastrocnemius heads. Continue to work through that tissue for 7 to 10 repetitions on each part of the calf that is tender. Next, use the massage stick. To make sure the calf is loose, use a step stool to lift the foot and allow the muscle to relax. Start near the bottom of the soleus and pull towards the top of the gastrocnemius. When you find a tender spot or a knot, stop the massage stick where it is and create pressure into that spot, creating a jostling motion without rolling the massage stick up and down. Make sure you breathe and relax the muscle tissue. Continue this same process all throughout the soleus and gastrocnemius, even the side of the lower leg, until you feel you've gotten all of the tender spots. Be sure to use firm pressure as you roll the tissue. The muscles running most deep to the soleus are the tibialis posterior and the flexor digitorum longus. The tibialis posterior is responsible for inversion of the foot. The flexor digitorum longus runs all the way to the tip of the toes, creating flexion of the four toes and assists with plantar flexion of the ankle. From those illustrations, you can see how the muscles in the lower leg control the toes. To work the tibialis posterior and the flexor digitorum longus, we are going to need a lacrosse ball and a chair. With your leg on a hard chair and the foot over the edge, place a lacrosse ball in between the gastrocnemius muscles and press down into the tissue. Work the medial and lateral portions the same way you work the tissue of the tibialis posterior. Press into the ball and pull your foot up while you breathe in. After a full contraction up, drop the foot and relax your breath. Work your way to the medial portions, continuing to breathe during the contract and relax sequence for 7 to 10 repetitions. Then move out to the lateral portions for 7 to 10 repetitions. For the foot, we're going to be looking at 4 different layers of muscle tissue. We'll begin with the most superficial ones. This initial layer is where we will focus first, with the bulk of our work being done on the flexor digitorum brevis. On the inside of the foot near the arch and heel is the abductor hallucis, and on the outside near the heel, the abductor digiti minimi. The second layer is made up of the quadratus plantae and the lumbricals. The lumbricals are intertwined with the tendons of the flexor digitorum longus. The third layer of muscle tissue is important when concerning pain at the ball of the foot. Here, the focus is on the flexor hallucis brevis, flexor digiti minimi brevis, adductor hallucis, the oblique head, and the transverse head. We're going to begin our work with a lacrosse ball right next to the wall. Place your foot beside the wall and start with the lacrosse ball near the front of the foot or the ball of the foot. Slowly press your foot over the ball, moving the ball towards the heel. Once you reach the heel, Continue your pressure directly into the tissue connecting to the heel. As you stand still with pressure, pull the toes up, then flex them down into the floor. Continue this process for 2 to 3 rounds, then proceed to work on the ball of the foot, stopping incrementally to flex the toes and relax. This process should take anywhere from 2 to 3 minutes to work your way all back to the heel, stretching the fascia on the bottom of the foot. Be sure to use firm pressure as you flex the toes and pull them up. Be sure to breathe and relax as you work the ball towards the heel. Next, we're going to use a bouncy ball near the ball of the foot, in the arch, and near the heel. The point of this is to push with even pressure into the floor, allowing your foot to collapse or fold over the ball for 20 to 30 seconds. Then, lift your foot, move the ball to a new area, and begin to stand again with even pressure on both feet. Even pressure means do not lean away from the pressure, but keep the pressure on both feet for 20 to 30 seconds. Repeat this process 6 to 7 times all over your left and then right foot. You can work from the ball of the foot all the way towards the heel. Remember to relax and stand evenly on the ball. The final layer of muscle tissue is between the metatarsals, called the plantar interossei. These are small muscles, but powerful for squeezing the foot tight. Work each finger between each toe until you have reached the webbing. It may take you some time to get to this point because it is an extreme stretch. Regardless of how deep you get your fingers into your toes, create a squeeze on the ball of the foot, creating separation of the metatarsals. Begin to move the foot back and forth, creating a big stretch. You will continue this anywhere from 30 to 40 seconds. Using the fingertips, we will begin working the top of the foot. Bend the toes up and press your fingers between the toes up the foot toward the ankle. This will create greater relaxation of the muscles that hold the toes together. Repeat this process 6 to 7 times, then return to the pivoting motion back and forth on the ball of the foot.
For pelvic tilt.
Remember, as we do pelvic tilts, right, we want to create a Kegel. That's like you're cutting off going to the bathroom. And then think of Doritos under your low back and crush that Dorito.
3, 2, 1. Pelvic tilt.
Okay, so pelvic tilt again, Kegel. Get that pelvic floor really firm, tighten down. And then compress that core, crushing that Dorito under the low back. Another great way to think about this is if you had a belt under your low back, right? Pin that belt to the floor so I couldn't come up and pull that belt out, okay? Or think something's about to whack you in the stomach.
That's halfway.
Okay. Tight, tight squeeze, tight core. We're trying to crank through these with as much pressure as we possibly can, focused on the core. Now, we call it a pelvic tilt because it should roll the pelvis kind of so your tailbone's lifting off the floor. Do not make that happen by pushing your feet in the ground, right? We want light feet. Make it just come from the core, pinning the belt to the floor.
3, 2, 1. Prepare for pelvic tilt with knee fall out. 3, 2, 1. Pelvic tilt with knee fall out.
Good core compression, super, super tight. Do your absolute best all the way through to create that contraction.
That's halfway.
Remember, your feet should be together here. As your knee goes out to the side, squeeze your core harder, okay? So it's as you're moving, recompress the core, recompress the core, recompress the core, then bring the knee back up. Do not let your pelvis tilt back and forth on the floor, right? We want to set the pelvis and think that's a bowl of water, right? Don't let that bowl tilt left and right.
3, 2, 1. Prepare for pelvic tilt with adduction.
All right, tilt with adduction. Grab that foam roller, squeeze your core tight, then squeeze the knees.
3, 2, 1. Pelvic tilt with adduction.
Very distinct movement. Kegel, core compression. Squeeze those knees, release the knees, keep the core tight, then release the core. Okay, very, very distinct. You should be in control of your core, whether you contract or relax through those hips in any direction.
That's halfway.
Halfway, re-squeeze the core, okay? Perfect time to just go, okay, I can squeeze even harder, okay? It's not about the movement of the knees, right? I don't care how tight the squeeze is on the knees. I care about how tight the core stays.
Three, 2, 1. Prepare for pelvic tilt with knee toward chest.
Okay, tilt with knee toward chest, that just means a march, okay? And simply one leg at a time, up towards the chest, set the foot back down.
3, 2, 1. Pelvic tilt with knee toward chest.
Okay, good, tight squeeze through the core, shoulders down and back. Keep that core compression going the whole time you march. So even as the foot's returning to the floor. Okay, again, this is trying to create kind of what I call the Rubik's Cube.
That's halfway.
To where when you lift your knee, it's trying to pull your hip, that one side, up in the air. Okay, don't let your pelvis transition at all.
Three, 2, 1. Prepare for pelvic tilt with bridge.
Solid spine.
Three, 2, 1. Pelvic tilt with bridge.
Straight lift. Hinge those butt cheeks together tight.
That's halfway.
Good squeeze halfway through, so recompress that core. We want to check as you return to the ground, your hips, low back, and ribs should all touch at the same time. I want your core to maintain that tight squeeze as you're moving. So both up and down. A lot of times what happens is when we go to lift, we start arching the back to complete that lift. Okay, so tuck your tail under.
3, 2, 1. Prepare for shoulder drops.
Shoulders down and back, out of the ears and to the floor, okay? Or get your shoulders
3,
down to your butt.
2, 1. Shoulder drop.
Then as your arm goes up overhead, that's a relaxation. Pull your shoulder back down to return your arm up. Okay, this isn't just a movement in the shoulder joint, this is actually the whole shoulder blade. Let the shoulder blade go as your arm goes overhead. And again, pull your shoulder down and back. You should feel this through your ribs, okay, on that back side. Pull those shoulders down, back, down, back.
That's halfway.
Halfway is a great time to recheck that core, make sure we're not extending our back to try to create more range of motion. Finish through nice and strong, recompress that core, shoulders down and back.
3, 2, 1. Prepare for dead bug.
Remember, tight squeeze through the core first.
3, 2, 1. Dead bug.
Okay, remember that dead bug, it's like having a box in between the arms and the legs, and you're holding that core tight. Only extend the leg as far towards the floor as your core can stay tight. If you extend that leg and you're trying to reach for the floor and your low back pops up, you're extending too far, okay? Rather than think that the gains come from getting your leg to the floor, think the gains come from connecting your brain to that muscle tissue really hard. Okay, so right now, if you think you're squeezing hard enough, you're wrong. Squeeze harder. Squeeze harder, harder. All the way through. Hold, compress that spine. Keep it down and back, down and back.
Three, 2, 1. Long rest.
Hey, great work on that. So we do want to take some time right now, right? Rest, get a little bit of a drink, and then we're going to jump right into round 2. Now for round 2, we're going to make it a little more difficult by way of trying to lift your feet just a tiny bit. So imagine your feet are on a scale. You're going to lift just 50% of the weight off your feet, okay? Then create whatever movement that we're going to create, okay? So always pelvic tilt first, so Kegel, core compression. Hover, a little bit of pressure off the feet, then create our movements.
3, 2, 1. Prepare for pelvic tilt. Three, 2, 1. Pelvic tilt.
Good, solid squeeze through your Kegel and core compression. Gently lift 50% of the weight off your feet, right? So you shouldn't even move, right? There should be no movement added in. It's just a tiny bit of a lift. And if you feel that low back kind of start peeling up off the ground, squeeze your core harder.
That's halfway.
Again, squeeze that core as you lift those feet a tiny, tiny bit. Make sure you squeeze even harder to keep your core down. So right here, I show you what happens if we're not tight in the core. That pelvis is just gonna roll right up. So re-squeeze that core, tight compression. Squeeze hard, and then get a little bit of a lift.
3, 2, 1. Prepare for pelvic tilt with knee fall out.
Pelvic tilt with knee fall out.
3, 2, 1. Pelvic tilt with knee fall out.
Again, as your knee's going out to the side, you should be really light on your feet, keeping that core compressed, and there should be no tilting or movement, rolling in the pelvis at all. Okay? Core compressed, hard, hard, hard. Drive that spine down into the floor. Create that pelvic tilt, keeping your Kegel tight. And yes, this is a very demanding exercise. It should not be easy. This
That's
is easy.
halfway.
You need to go connect your core, connect your brain back down to that core. Get it tight. Squeeze firm all the way through. Remember to keep some of the pressure off the feet. Be out to the side, back up. Do not let your pelvis shift or move. Let's get all the way through here, all the way through.
3, 2, 1. Prepare for pelvic tilt with adduction.
Okay, tilt with adduction, grab that foam roller, 6-step movement, core tight, squeeze the knees, lift, set, release the knees, release the core.
3, 2, 1. Pelvic tilt with adduction.
Compress that core super hard. Make sure you still have that Kegel tight. Squeeze the knees, lift the pressure off your feet, set your feet back down, release the knees, Kegel and core should still be there. Then release your core. Okay, redo that. Real firm compression, super distinct in the way that you're moving. Create solid compressions, right? Each one, very firm, very firm.
That's
You should be
halfway.
thinking with every movement, it's as hard as you can possibly squeeze. Okay, so squeeze that Kegel, core compression as hard as you possibly can. Squeeze your feet, or squeeze your knees together as hard as you possibly can, right? Very distinctly, pressure off the feet, set the feet back down, release the knees, Kegel and core should still be there, then release the core. Finish all the way through, nice and strong.
3, 2, 1. Prepare for pelvic tilt with knee toward chest.
Okay, back to the march. So again, feet should be light. Do not let the pelvis shift.
3, 2, 1. Pelvic tilt with knee toward chest.
Good core compression, Kegel, core compressed. You need to maintain that through the movement of the hips. Everything tight. Okay, so either the Dorito or the belt under the low back, make sure you're pinning that to the ground. Right? Doritos, we're trying to crush the cornmeal. Okay, all the way down.
That's halfway.
Good, tight squeeze all the way through.
3, 2, 1. Prepare for pelvic tilt with bridge.
Tilt and bridge. Remember, every time you come back down to the ground, I want you to compress that core so hard it lays flat.
3, 2, 1. Pelvic tilt with bridge.
Good compression. Squeeze hard. Right? When you return to the ground, your hips, low back, and ribs should all touch at the same time. That shows that we didn't arch the back through the movement.
That's halfway.
Perfect time to re-squeeze that core, compress hard, right? Squeeze your butt cheeks together like you're pinching a penny. That's where the lift should be coming from, right? The lift isn't coming from shoving your shoulders into the ground. The lift is coming from extending those hips using your butt cheeks.
Three, 2, 1. Prepare for shoulder drops.
Set the shoulders down and back first. Even if you need to leave your arms by your sides, then put them up in the air.
3, 2, 1. Shoulder drop.
Good shoulder drops and return, keeping the shoulders out of the ears. Okay, so you might have to recheck that every single time that you perform the movement, just to get the shoulders down and back out of the ears as much as you possibly can. Okay, firm compression. Still driving that low back into the floor. Kegel core compression. Hold it really, really tight.
That's halfway.
Again, perfect time to recheck it. Make sure those feet are light. 50% of the weight off those feet. Shoulders down and back. Create a big demand. Make it difficult. As difficult as I'm asking you to. Tight squeeze, tight squeeze.
Three, 2, 1. Prepare for dead bug.
All right, dead bugs or bird dogs. So I'll show you the bird dogs here. Make sure you keep that core compressed.
3, 2, 1. Dead bug.
We do not want to cat or cow through the bird dog. We want to make sure that we're holding compression through that core as you create the extension through your arms and legs. So same thing as when you're doing a dead bug. Right? You want to make sure that the back is staying in neutral. So don't overextend your legs or arms. You just extend where you can, maintaining compression and
That's halfway.
keeping that core nice and tight. Right, all the way through. Do your best to finish strong. Recompress that core. Pull those shoulders down and back. Same position as you were in. Squeeze tight. 7 seconds to finish.
3, 2, 1. Long rest.
Okay, good work. So that is round 2. So for round 3, what we're going to do is we're going to focus on actually hovering the feet off of the ground. Okay, so every single movement, core is on first, off last, making sure you've got that Kegel compression. See if you can hover the feet. Now, that's a goal. So if you can't do that, that's okay. Just do one of the earlier rounds, right? So you might only be able to lift 50% of the weight off your feet right now. That's okay. We're just trying to create a larger demand as we go. Figure out where that demand is too much for you and challenge it.
1. Prepare for pelvic tilt. Three, 2, 1. Pelvic tilt.
Good tight pelvic tilts. Make sure that your core stays compressed as you try to hover those feet. And 2, one thing that I see a lot is going up on the toes. Try not to go up on the toes. See if you can peel the whole foot flat off the ground and maintain that spinal compression. It's going to be a very, very big challenge. Now, if you notice you go to peel those feet, they just don't want to leave the floor and your back pops up, make sure to re-squeeze the core, okay? Harder. Then just try again. It is absolutely okay in your exercises to make sure that you're re-squeezing each time. If you don't want to do that,
2,
and you want to try to
1.
hold it the whole time,
Prepare for pelvic tilt with knee fall out.
that is perfectly fine as well. Okay, so don't get confused on whether we're re-squeezing and releasing every time. I like that just for the sole fact of your brain is
3,
having to
2,
reconnect.
1. Pelvic tilt with knee fall out.
Okay, so if you can't reconnect, if you can't figure out how to hold it and maintain tightness, then you're going to want to re-squeeze each time. Okay, but no matter what, you want to be re-squeezing the core after every single movement. So whether you fully relax and re-squeeze,
That's halfway.
or you just re-squeeze, no matter what, core compress, tight, 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 trying to hover those feet, forcing the work really firm. You're almost there. Work hard through it. Everything that you've got. Squeeze through.
3, 2, 1. Prepare for pelvic tilt with adduction.
Remember to add the foam roller or a cushion here, and it's a 6-step process. Core tight, knees squeeze, lift the feet, set the feet, release the knees,
3,
release.
2, 1. Pelvic tilt with adduction.
Okay, Kegel, core compression, super tight. Squeeze those knees, hover the feet, 1, 2, set the feet down, release the knees, keep the core tight, then release the core. Re-squeeze, core tight, squeeze those knees, lift the feet, set the feet back down, release the knees, release the core. Okay, very distinct. Keep squeezing all the way through.
That's halfway.
Halfway is always a great time to continue to recheck. Okay? Make sure that core is bearing down. Crush that Dorito. Pin a belt under your low back so it can't be pulled out. Keep working all the way through, all the way through. Try not to quit.
3, 2, 1. Prepare for pelvic tilt with knee toward chest.
Good, tight pelvic tilt as you march. Remember, do not scissor kick. One leg at a time.
3, 2, 1. Pelvic tilt with knee toward chest.
Good core compression, tight, tight, tight. Make sure the feet are hovering, but only move one at a time.
That's halfway.
Good core compression, squeeze tight, firm, 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 firm. Again, do not move both legs at the same time. You should hover your feet, move one knee up, back down to a hover, then the other knee up, back down to a hover. Reset if you need to, and then go again. All the way through, finish strong, 7 seconds.
3, 2, 1. Prepare for pelvic tilt with bridge.
Awesome, awesome work. Now into the bridge. Remember, when you return to the ground, your low back should not be arched. That's what you're watching for.
3, 2, 1. Pelvic tilt with bridge.
Good, tight core compression. You're thinking lift through the butt cheeks, right? We're not shoving the shoulders down. We're actually lifting and extending the hips. Okay, when you return to the ground, low back, ribs, and hips should all touch at the same time. Make sure you follow through with that.
That's halfway.
Perfect time to recompress. Make sure you're maintaining that spinal compression. This is where we see the biggest change in the way we sit and stand. Can you maintain spinal compression through hip extension?
Three, 2, 1. Prepare for shoulder drops.
Get set for those shoulder drops. So start by pulling those shoulder blades down and back, then set your arms towards the ceiling.
3, 2, 1. Shoulder drop.
Firm core compression, make sure that stays in place. Do not arch your back thinking it's helping to get more range of motion. You will get whatever range of motion is there, then pause at the end of that range of motion, pull the shoulder blades back, down, and back. We train it this way because the more stability that we add to the shoulder blade, the more range of motion we're actually going to get out of the shoulder joint.
That's halfway.
Recompress that core, tight squeeze, firm, 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 all the way through.
Three, two, one. Prepare for dead bug.
Awesome. Last one of the day. Maintain that spinal compression as hard as you possibly can. Challenge yourself all the way through.
3, 2, 1. Dead bug.
Tight squeeze, firm compression. Remember, you can be doing those bird dogs as well. Either one is fine, but make sure you maintain that compression, right? The stronger your core, especially in the bird dog, the more balanced you're going to be. And that's what we want to work on, is how do we stimulate that core to tolerate extension movements just like what we're doing. Because every step you
That's
take
halfway.
is going to be right arm with left leg. Then it's going to be left arm with right leg, right? That's the way our body works. Cross rotational patterns, one side to the other. Firm compression all the way through. Okay, we've got 10 seconds left. Do your absolute best to finish strong through it.
3, 2, 1. Long rest.
Finish strong through it. Yeah, you're showing it.